Hello and welcome to another episode of Developing TodoDock. So in the previous episode, we have written some Dask tests for the navigation inside our app. So we tested, like, for example, going to the welcome page from the about page, or when you click on the nav bar, you're taken to the home page, and so on. So they were kind of a higher level test. Today we're gonna write some Jest tests to test our actual React components. Just like with the Dask test, I already have some Jest tests written for some of my React components, but I don't have tests for some of the newer ones. So for instance, this header, like the navigation bar here, is something I recently added. And it's called, let me show you, desktop header. So the reason that I call this desktop header is because we also have a mobile version of this, and it's called surprise mobile header. So depending on the screen size, the app dynamically chooses whether to render the desktop or the mobile header. So I'm going to write tests for both of them today. And for starters, I'm just going to copy one existing test that I already have and continue from that starting point. So I have it, for example, Jest test here for my task component. So let me show you. So this is my task component. Also, it has three different states, by the way. The first is whenever a task is due, it appears like this, and this is its regular form with a time bar. And finally, we have an archived state of the task. So in this test, we are actually testing every possible case, if I remember correctly. So I'm just gonna copy this file and paste it here. I'm gonna name this new file desktop header test JSX. Just to avoid like writing all the boilerplate, I'm just gonna keep the first test case. And so the first thing we should do is, of course, rename the test name. Also, I'm gonna rename this because I don't know which case I'm gonna test right now. This should be as clear as possible. By the way, I'm using the React testing library, as you can see. So, for instance, for the task, what we were testing, let's give it a quick look. So we are checking if the name and period is visible. So as you can see, the name and period is visible in every form of the task. And like we are asserting that the component has a particular styling. So there's a bunch of things that we can do. For this desktop header component, first of all, I want to make sure that these links are visible when the user is logged in. But before everything, I just want to make sure that the bare minimum of a test can pass for this component. I just renamed the component that's being rendered, and we should pass the props that this component accepts. So it's accepting a history and the user store. So user store is actually a MobX store. MobX is something I use for state management in this app. So don't worry about it too much. We just have to pass it via a provider, just like this one. But instead of task store and breakpoint store, I'm just gonna have to pass user store. And I'm going to name this as user store 2. Oh, and I also have to import my component. Actually, let's default import. I'm not gonna check the style, so this isn't necessary, I think. Actually, just let's comment out everything and just check the snapshot. Using this as fragment, we can do something like this. So expect as fragment to match snapshot. So on the first run, this will create a snapshot directory here, and it's gonna take a snapshot of the current state of the component, and for the subsequent runs, it's gonna compare the created snapshot with the existing snapshot, and if they are the same, the test will pass. If they are different for some reason, the test will fail. By the way, how I am using this history. So I'm using the history whenever a button is clicked. So if I don't click the button, I think it shouldn't be a problem. So maybe I can get away with not passing any props to this component. And let's try this. By the way, should I use my integrated terminal? I never use. Let me just give it a shot. Okay, so npm test. Yep. Yeah, the problem with the integrated terminal though is it's very short in size. So I'm just gonna run my test again. Okay, so it failed. You should not use with router outside a router. So let's go to our component. So we're using the with router hook, and it says we shouldn't do it without passing unless it's in a router. So I forgot to add it. Actually, there's something we can do about this. So there's something called memory router, I believe. Yeah. For the Jest tests, we can just pass memory router, and this will hopefully pass down the history, location, and so on to this component. Let's try again. Nice, our tests have passed. Let me just show you the snapshot. So this is this is actually some kind of a HTML. This is how our component appears on the document object model. All right. So of course, this is not enough. To be honest, I don't like snapshot tests. I just added it to make sure that I can actually render this component. The reason I don't like snapshot tests, and I know some people will disagree with me, but let's say I'm just adding a new class here. Okay, so this has a class, and I add X class. This snapshot will change, and if I forget to delete this snapshot and rerun my test and generate a new snapshot, when I push my branch while in continuous integration tests, it's gonna fail, and it will require me to update the snapshot and push it again. And I don't feel like it's providing enough value to keep those snapshots around. So what I'm gonna do is just delete this folder and this test. I'm just going to test, for example, the visibility of my links. By the way, we are seeing those links, but when I'm logged out, I only see the about link. So that's what I'm going to test first. So we have a user store, but it's empty. So there isn't any user information in it. So it's basically a logged out state. So let me just copy this. About link. And we can call the method getByText, text, and the text is about. And what we can do is expect about link to be in the document. So that's pretty easy. Let's give it a shot. If this passes, yeah, it passed. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna make sure that, for instance, the donate link that was just here before isn't visible when the user is a guest. So very similar to this, but the name will be different. Donate link. And so this time not to be in the document. So what else? We also want to make sure that our brand is visible, right? So let's actually do it in the beginning. So we are checking the existence of two elements and making sure that one element doesn't exist. Let's run this again. And while this runs, I'm gonna look at the component to see what else I can test. I could test the icons too, but like they're subject to change. I'm actually thinking of maybe removing the icons in the future. So let's not deal with that for now. And let me go to, yeah, actually it would be great if I could. Oh, okay, I don't have to actually check the existence of, yeah, the existence of the icon itself, but I can just check the ID of those components. So instead of, let's go back, and instead of querying by the text, let's just query them by their IDs. But I don't remember how to query an element by ID, so React testing library get by ID. So I'm just going to look it up. I hope I can find it very easily. Get by ID. Can I do get by ID? Just let's give it a try. Get by test ID. Okay, so there's something else that I know called query selector, and I think we should import it from the testing library, and it allows us to make queries by the CSS selector. So let me quickly look up, for example, the ID of this item. So it's called nav brand home link. I know you can't see it because it's very small, but don't worry, I'm just going to paste it here. And I should pass the hash to indicate it's an ID. So I'm just also going to comment those out and try to make this pass. The beauty of this is not only I'm independent of the actual text and the icon, because I might change the icon later, right? So this doesn't have an icon yet, but when it comes to those, so I might decide to replace this icon or get rid of it altogether. Or, for example, I can change the text of this link but the ID, as long as the ID stays the same, my test will continue to pass. By the way, let's see if it passed. It failed. Query selector is not a function. Wow. By the way, I'm just gonna try one more thing and then look it up. Because sometimes, like something like fire event should be imported, but some things are returned by this render method. So I always mix those up. Query selector is not a function. Okay, so let's go back. Oh, okay, I remember it now. Yeah, it's a method of the container. So I have to do this. Yep, it passed. And I'm very happy that I decided to use the IDs, because like one other benefit of using the IDs is, let me show you. So I'm tracking with Google Analytics the clicks on important elements. So I'm tracking, for instance, the clicks on this nav bar, nav brand, also these links on header. Not everything, so I'm not tracking those buttons or those buttons. This is just so that I can see how users behave. So when a user visits my web application, what actions do they take, how they navigate between the pages, and so. So the analytics keeps track of the clicks by the ID. So by making sure that this ID hasn't changed, I'm also making sure that my analytics won't break. So I'm just going to update those as well using the IDs, about link, and this one is donate link. I have to look those up, of course. About Patreon logout. Okay, so also now I can test another benefit, by the way, the existence of this icon. Even though this doesn't have a text, this has an ID, and it's called logout. Desktop nav logout link. Okay. Oh, I got it wrong, by the way. Desktop nav. Only the first one was nav brand. Desktop nav about, and the next one is donate. And this should be named as logout link. There's one issue, but I'm gonna talk about it a bit later. Like, what I'm thinking now is this should fail actually, because we are logged out currently. So when we are logged out, this should be visible, this should be visible, but those two should be invisible. And I'm really hoping now that this fails, but this didn't fail. About donate logout. So let's go to our component and see why that happens. So I'm checking the user store ID. And if the user store ID exists, I'm rendering those. Can we console log here? Actually, I don't have to do it after rendering. I can just create a new user store and check the ID. Can we add debuggers? No, I don't think so. I should have labeled it. It didn't print anything. Oh, okay. User ID is, I think it's either undefined or null, because or an empty string at best. So because of this, oh, by mistake, this is very funny. Like I can't believe myself sometimes. So I didn't intend to do it like this. I was assuming that all of these were to be in the document, but those two, by pure coincidence, by the way, are prepended with a not. So if I remove those, for example, now it's gonna fail, and that's the state I thought this was in. Also, I can get rid of those. I just want to see the failure. Okay, yeah, that's great. So actually, these are very valuable tests for me right now. And okay, now I know how to name this test, or let's see, should render nav brand and about link while when logged out. I can get rid of those because I'm not gonna test any other thing. I'm just gonna duplicate this and also test the logged in state. I should say should only, to not cause any confusion, should render all items. Yeah, I should say should render all nav items when logged in. Perfect. By the way, I can get rid of those. Okay. I believe I also can get rid of those as well. The only thing I have to do about here, I have to set the ID. So instead of passing this new user store, I have to create it first. And then user store set ID, let's say 0 or 5, I don't care. And now we can toggle these. And hopefully this is also gonna work. Oh, it failed. So do we need anything else other than the user ID? I will just comment this out so that it doesn't interfere with output, and I'm gonna print the ID. To make sure it's not null or anything. Where's our, yeah, it's 5. So let's go back to our component. So if this is not null, we are rendering desktop now, Patreon link, desktop now, logout link. Oh, because it's not donate, it's Patreon. Okay, then this should pass now, right? I don't think the other one was incorrect. It's logout. Okay, it passed. Perfect. So let me uncomment those. And just for making sure, I'm gonna run it again, and then I'm gonna commit this. Great. So let's add a nice commit message. We only added some one test. So add Jest test for desktop header component. All right, so what we can do is just copy this and paste it here so that we can also do something similar for the mobile header. As before, I'm gonna have to rename those. These are gonna change, but one step at a time. What else? These are pretty much the same, right? So let me actually close those and open up my mobile header component and see if it also, it also has a router and it also requires a user store. So I'm gonna first of all comment out the second test case and also comment out those checks. Just make sure that we can verify one ID. I'm just double checking here. Okay, so let's look it up. So which IDs do we have? By the way, I'm just gonna go and see it from the browser. Okay, first of all, I want to make sure that I can see this, and I doubt that this has an ID, but this has a very explicit class. So let me copy. I know you can see it. Sorry about that. So the class is this. One second. Yeah, the query selector. This time it's going to be a class, and the class name is ant dropdown link. So I'm using the ant library to render that menu, and menu query selector ant dropdown link class. So expect menu to be in the document. By the way, I wish I didn't delete the first line because it's going to be the same. I still want to see the nav brand. So I'm just copying it from the desktop header. I'm going to check those two things for starters. Oh, is this the same ID? It should be. Nav brand home link. Yeah. Great. So let's go ahead and run our tests. Once we can verify that it's visible, it's gonna fail, and I know why it's gonna fail, because when we are logged out like this, instead of the menu, we only render the about link. So this is for the second test case. So I'm just gonna paste it here for future use and comment it out and go back and uncomment the about link. But I'm pretty much sure that the ID is different now. Mobile nav about link. Yeah, instead of desktop, yeah, mobile nav about link. So actually this will be the entirety of the first test case. I should only render the nav brand, and yeah, actually this is exactly the same. I don't have to change the text here. Great. Okay, I have to check one more thing. Actually this one, but the inverse. So since this component is capable of rendering the menu, I should make sure that it's not rendering it while logged out. Not to be in the document. And the second test case will be a bit trickier compared to the desktop header because we didn't simulate any clicks. But for this one, let me just log in. For this one, I'm gonna try clicking it and I'm gonna check if I can see those three. But first, let's make sure that this passes again. And in the meantime, let's uncomment this. And should only, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong place, should only render the hamburger menu when logged in. Yeah, this is the same. We're just assigning a random ID, and let's make this 3 this time. Okay, first of all, nav brand is always visible, by the way, so I should make this clear. Render the nav brand and the hamburger menu. So these two, nav brand and menu, should be visible, but those should be invisible. Actually, not those, just the about link, because this component isn't capable of rendering donate and logout links on the nav bar. It can render them as a drop down. So this time I'm gonna comment this out. It failed. Oh, okay, because I forgot to update this. I wish it ran a bit faster. Just for one test case, we're waiting, let me see, 12 seconds? Yeah, 10 seconds. It's too much. Oh, it passed, but I didn't scroll. But it still took 10 seconds. Anyway, this is this passes. Actually, let me just create a new test case, because like simulating a click is kind of a different thing than just making sure it's visible in a particular way. Should open the drop upon menu click. So let's make this 7 this time. Okay, and when logged in. So since I already made sure that those exist, I don't have to do it again. I just need that handle, the menu, because I'm gonna fire an event, by the way. We haven't used that in the previous class. Previous test. So we have something at our disposal called fire event, and we can do lots of things, and one of them is simulating a click. So click menu And whenever this is clicked, I'm gonna assert the IDs again, but just for simplicity for now, I'm just gonna get by text. So for example, donate link, get by text, donate, and expect it to be in the document. Should I also uncomment that? I mean, comment that, because 10 seconds is already long. I don't want to wait for the test cases that I already know that are passing. It failed because we didn't declare it. In the meantime, I'm just gonna check the IDs. Mobile nav menu item Patreon. So let's get that. Alright, so this is donate link. Did the test pass, by the way? Yeah, it passed. So this should also pass. And for the other links, we could just rename the variables. And also the IDs. I believe these are correct. Let's give it a try. What else? Do we have to test anything else? So it's enough for me that when I click that, the drop down appears and all those are visible. Because the other things I can test with Dusk. So if I click that, do I get directed to the About page? I can test it using Dusk. So if it passes, I was gonna say, but it didn't. I was gonna say, if this passes, this is it for today. But as you can see, this is not it for today. Donate link isn't in the document. Why? First of all, this isn't necessary. Mobile nav menu item Patreon. Actually, let's search. I can even copy and paste to make sure, but yeah, it didn't change. I typed it correctly. Let's look at the error message one more time. Oh, the value must be an HTML element or an SVG element. Okay, I was like going for HTML element. It's really annoying. So I'm just gonna try something. Can I get the ID of the span at least? Mobile nav menu item Patreon text. And do this for all of them. Yeah, I was thinking maybe it doesn't recognize the list items. donate link. The funny thing is, oh no, I didn't mess anything up. The funny thing is, I was able to do it like this. Get by text. I'm just gonna do it for all of them. Yeah, by the way, feel free to drop off because once I fix this, I'm gonna end the video. Of course, you're welcome to stay, but this may be somewhat time consuming, and just stay if you're wondering the outcome about. Is it log out or log out? Log out, okay. Also, at least this should pass, because when I tried it for the donate text, it passed. It's really odd that this is happening. Yeah, it passes. Can I try something else? I'm gonna try the class, and let me look at the class name for this. Class and drop down menu item. No, I was thinking something, but it's not important. I forgot the class name. And drop down menu item. So there's another function called query selector all, and since this class is used by the three of those links, I could query all and count, like get the count and assert that it's equal to 3. That's another way of testing it. What? Oh. Very little mistakes cost us a lot of time. Yeah, it doesn't like querying by the CSS selector for some reason. Could it be because it's not visible in the first place and it's rendered afterwards? Let me quickly search it. Okay, I don't want to waste a lot of time on this. So what I'm going to do is just add a to-do comment here. Use IDs instead. And I'm going to actually, let's not get rid of those comments. Yeah, I'm going to leave it as it is right now, and some other time I'm going to try to fix that. So let me uncomment all and run it one last time. By the way, I by mistake opened this up for somehow, I don't know. If this passes, I'm gonna commit and push and finally end this episode. Yeah, it passed, thankfully. Yeah, let's commit. Add Jest tests for mobile header component. Alright, so that's it for today. This was a little bit annoying that we couldn't get by ID, but it's not the end of the world. We at least can make sure that the 3 links appear when we click on the hamburger menu. So thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next episode. Take care.